I'm Annabelle, and I'm leading the team behind this year's Past Data Community Summit. Whether you've attended past Summit in-person conferences in the past, last year's virtual Summit, or you're totally new to the data platform community, everyone's a first-timer today. Since we acquired the assets of PASS earlier this year, our goal has been to do all we can to support the data platform community. Having worked at Redgate for the past 12 years in a variety of roles, one constant for me has been that I've always focused on supporting the community, whether that be through sponsorship, advocacy events, and I've always felt very welcome and part of that community. Getting today has been one of my biggest career accomplishments, and I couldn't have done it without such a strong team behind me, and of course the support from the community. The feedback we've received along the way has been so useful in helping guide and plan out this week's experience. Now this year the programme has been carefully designed for data professionals of all levels, and we hope you enjoy everything the online experience has to offer. I know that the majority of you are here because of the knowledge you're hoping to gain from some of the best minds from across the data industry. This year's conference is jam-packed with almost 300 sessions from over 300 speakers. Education and learning really is at the heart of the summit, and this year's online platform will allow you to digest the content at a time that's best for your schedule. Sessions will be available within the online Rainfocus platform, which is cloud-based and powers the most sophisticated event portfolios in the world. Every day for the rest of the week, things will kick off with a keynote and run till the end of the day. While I appreciate that not everyone is in the same time zone, you'll be able to see what time the session is in your time in the catalogue. I understand that many of you will be tuning in at a time that fits you. The sessions will be broadcast both live and on demand formats, so you can enjoy the content you want to see however you want, wherever you are in the world. All pre-recorded sessions are live now, and once the sessions have been presented, they'll be on demand too. Because you're registered, you'll be able to access the sessions for the next 6 months right here in the event platform. So you don't have to worry about any scheduling conflicts, just favourite that session for later. And based on the community insights, we decided to schedule interactive Q&A sessions with the speakers, whose sessions were pre-recorded. So then that way you get the opportunity to interact in real time this week with those speakers. We really value your feedback, and it's vital for us to continually improve. Filling out your session evaluation helps not only us, but also the community speakers who have volunteered their time to grow as presenters and professionals by presenting today. This week, I want to encourage you to add time to your schedule to network, which is another key reason why you typically might attend a conference like this. I know when it's online, it sometimes can be more challenging, but with this in mind, we've worked very hard and put a lot of thought into how to simulate the experiences that you might get if you were meeting a fellow attendee in real life. So this week, we've got an incredible experience and chance for you to connect with other professionals from around the globe. So take this opportunity to learn and connect with people that you wouldn't typically be able to meet. Go to the Connect tab and visit the community zone, jump into the online networking powered by Spatial Chat. It provides an immersive networking experience for conference attendees to enjoy. We realise it won't be exactly the same as the in-person setting, but we encourage you to take advantage of this innovative technology and help you one another interact with data professionals. So while you're leading into this year's interactive conference, we hope you'll be excited by the thought of next year's hybrid event taking place in Seattle as well as online. Everyone registered before the end of the keynote on Friday will be first to access next year's summit registration. We want the summit to be a welcoming and a harassment-free experience. So please do familiarise yourself with the conference code of conduct, which you'll have seen as part of your attendee registration. Finally, I want to spend a moment recognising the data platform ecosystem and all of our sponsors, without whom this year's free online event wouldn't be possible. So thank you to all the sponsors for their commitment to the community. I'd like to encourage you to visit the Expo Zone this week to interact with those sponsors and exhibitors. Join them to learn about the leading providers and innovators in the data technology space. Each day has time carved out where you can interact with the live expo and connect with solution experts. You'll be able to pick up useful resources and you'll be able to get some fantastic prizes too. Microsoft are our premier sponsor, and we're delighted you'll be able to dive deep into the latest product announcements from expert engineers. And it's an absolute pleasure to welcome Rohan Kumar, Corporate Vice President of Microsoft Azure Data, to present our Day One keynote. Over to you, Rohan.
Hi, welcome to Past Data Community Summit 2021. I'm Rohan Kumar from the Azure Data team. It's great to be back with you all. Before I get going, I'd like to take a minute to thank Redgate for the hard work they put into hosting this year's Past Data Summit. Today, I'm taking you to a new universe built with what you already know and love. Although I'm not beaming to you from a galaxy far, far away, I'm coming to you virtually. And that's okay. What I've learned this year is that we can do so much more when we augment the real with the virtual. We can tour the International Space Station together, or you can join a video chat with me from the Golden Gate Ferry, and I'll hear seagulls when you go off mute. Just like augmented reality has had a breakout here, so too have the cloud innovation and adoption. In fact, this innovation and adoption have created a new universe with limitless potential and possibilities. So how do we get there? What tools do we need? Do we have to learn a whole new set of skills? More importantly, will we see Bob and Connor battle over who gets to be Obi-Wan Kenobi? For those of you who are not Jedi trained, rest easy. To get to this new universe, you can use the SQL you already know to bridge where you are today with where you want to go. Our end-to-end data platform supports you at every step of your journey and helps you discover a whole new galaxy of insights, answers, and predictions using familiar tools and skills. Next thing you know, you'll be zipping along at light speed with SQL as your co-pilot. Does this sound familiar? I hope so, because you and others in this data community play an essential role in helping us enhance our services and strengthen the bridge every single day. And to make sure no one falls into a black hole or gets knocked out of the orbit by a rogue asteroid, we've built governance and control into the data platform that practically works on autopilot. The end-to-end data platform includes three critical components that together form a reliable, secure bridge anyone can traverse. First and foremost, we've built limitless cloud database services that let you connect to new possibilities and innovations using your current skills and knowledge, as well as your favorite tools and drivers. Choose from relational, non-relational, and open source database services built to work the way you do. We offer a wide selection of options you can use to support a microservices or API-based approach to development, as well as database services built for edge and serverless scenarios. With Microsoft Database Services, there's really no limit to what you can do. Whether you want to build robust line of business applications that capture data and deliver accurate forecasts, or develop a bot powered by AI to guide customers through purchase, we offer the data stores and development tools you need to unlock your data. That brings me to the second component of our bridge, unmatched analytics and insights. We built cloud database services with an eye towards enabling analytics because modern businesses can change in a heartbeat. To stay relevant, you need to use your data generated by your applications to extract real-time insights and use those insights to make your businesses smarter, which helps you train your machine learning models with the most recent operational data for more accurate real-time predictions. In this way, analytics create a self-sustaining cycle that increases the value of your data and propels you forward. At Microsoft, we support this dynamic between data and analytics by providing unlimited scale-out query capabilities that let you use SQL and Spark to analyze your data where it lives. Plus, you can use AI to create data-driven predictions of future outcomes. That means no more looking at the stars for answers and running into space junk. This brings us to the final component of the bridge that we refer to as unified data governance. We think of this as a shield that surrounds the databases and analytics you're running to ensure data generated by humans and machines is both usable and governed. We've built this shield full of capabilities that enable automated data discovery, sensitive data classification, and end-to-end data and lineage tracking. That way, anyone from data scientists to a sales team can explore the new universe without having to worry that it'll get knocked off course or misled by data equivalent of orbital debris. Microsoft started building this bridge and its components more than 30 years ago with the very first release of SQL Server. And SQL Server has been at the heart of innovations ever since. It's the common element that strengthens the bridge to help you unlock a universe of possibilities. Alone, each part of the bridge is powerful, but together, there's so much more. At Microsoft, we continue to build and refine the end-to-end data platform to give you everything you need to deliver the next big thing in data, from on-prem to edge to the cloud. But no one can build something like this alone. Your willingness to engage with us and share your ideas and support through the Azure Data community and beyond has led to the enhancements and features you'll see here today. When I think about this community, I think about saying, if you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, let's go together. Even with all the challenges of the past couple of years, you've all shown that our data community has what it takes to go deep into this new universe. And we can't wait to see where your journey takes you. Thank you for partnering with us to build the Azure Data community. Today, we are 70,000 members and growing, with over 130 user groups reaching across 38 countries. These community-led meetup groups in real or virtual locations keep conversations going about all things data, including SQL Server and Azure Data. From Lima to Los Angeles, London to Lagos, you've rallied and worked to stay connected. Anyone who needs support, wants to share a solution, is eager to rhapsodize about intelligent query, or is ready to debate Wookiees versus Ewoks, can get together with like-minded people. And when the cosmic void tries to suck you in, Azure Data community groups offer the support and anchor you need to stay on course. Here's a look into multiple community efforts that have taken place over the course of the past year and a half.
Hi, I'm Stuart Moore. Matt, Gordon and I saw a lack of events for newcomers to the data platform community, so decided to create Data Platform Discovery Day, specialising in the best level 100 content we could find, covering both sides of the Atlantic.
Yeah, we had over 500 people at each day, and now we will be combining forces into a single day event that will be coming at you Wednesday, January 19th, 2022.
Even before the pandemic hit us all, we saw a lack of opportunities for new and diverse speakers, so we had created a dedicated newcomer track at our event data room, where speakers receive a mentor to provide them with the support they need to prepare and deliver their first ever session. With every event going virtual, this issue became even bigger, so we unbundled our newcomer track and started new virtual events, focusing on new and diverse speakers, and some amazing presenters are currently helping us to build a content library to improve your speaking skills. Do you want to help us build that library? Are you thinking about becoming a speaker, or are you looking for a mentor? Contact me on Twitter, send me an email, or go to newstarsofdata.com.
Hi, I'm Steve Jones, Microsoft Data Platform MVP, founder of SQL Server Central and SQL Saturday. 20 years ago, my partners and I founded SQL Server Central with the goal of helping you become a better data professional every single day. It's been an amazing success, but we realized we could do more. We knew that we had been lucky to go to conferences throughout our careers. We'd networked with others and become excited and inspired by technology. We wanted to bring that to every local community, and so we founded SQL Saturday, where we had tools and templates to help you run your own event. We had over 1,000 events in the first 14 years, and we're hoping to have more in the future. If you'd like to set up an event in your area, or you'd like to help your community, contact us at SQLSaturday.com. We'll see if we can run an event together in 2022.
What gap did you see, and how did it impact the community?
We needed to run an event for Pordenone and wanted a website to attract speakers and attendees, and there wasn't anything.
What did you do and how?
We created a GitHub repository, bought the domain datasaturdays.com, and hosted it on GitHub.
What were the results and how can people get involved?
Well, we've enabled 19 events so far, and please help us on GitHub so we can help even more small event organizers.
Last year saw tremendous challenges for the Azure Data community. Leadership at Microsoft stepped in and asked, what can we do to help? And we replied, we have to support the local user groups. They are the community. We believe that user groups should be community owned and Microsoft empowered. We created the Azure Data community to help your groups flourish and grow. 70,000 professionals around the world. Community is about people helping each other, We're excited to see what you're going to accomplish together.
The force is strong in this community, and we want to do everything we can do to honor and nurture the generous, collaborative nature of these groups through the technology and tools we create. For the rest of our time together, we're going to focus on how the three areas of innovation work together to create a bridge that helps you transcend some of the biggest challenges you face today. And to do that, I've invited some members of my leadership team to join me. I'd like to welcome our first guest, Peter Carlin, Corporate Vice President of Azure Database Platform and our own Jedi Master of Database Services. Peter, thanks for being here today.
Hi, Rohan. Thanks for inviting me to join you. I'm excited to talk about breakthrough database innovations we've been working on. But first, I want to say a proper hello to all of you in the audience today. It's really exciting to connect with you through this vibrant community, even if we can't be in the same room. As Rohan mentioned earlier, we strive to develop enhancements that align with what you want to accomplish. That's why your feedback is so important to us. Many of the new features and capabilities I'm going to share today address specific challenges that we've heard from customers. The biggest challenge in regard to databases is the fact that relational and non-relational data is proliferating at astronomical rates across locations. However, I think I can shine a little lightsaber on the issue. By officially announcing the preview of SQL Server 2022, I'm excited by the innovation that we've packed into this latest release of SQL Server. With SQL Server 2022, you get an industry leader in performance and security, powered by Azure. In this release, we're delivering the best of both on-premises and cloud worlds, with new hybrid options for enhancing business continuity, running analytics over operational data on-premises, and improving visibility over your entire data estate. See what I mean about staying on-premises and staying ahead with help from the cloud? In SQL Server 2022, we also applied the blockchain methodology to create a centralized, tamper-proof ledger that tracks changes. And we've made it easier than ever to optimize database performance by enhancing intelligent query processing and combining it with the Query Store to help IQP work even faster and to enable new use cases. Plus, you get both capabilities turned on by default in new instances. Next, I'd like to tell you about my favorite feature in SQL Server 2022, parameter-sensitive plans. I remember back in 2000 working on a query performance issue that came down to the inability to have two different plans for the same query. So I'm honored to invite Bob Ward to demo parameter-sensitive plans, or PSP optimization, which uses variations of runtime parameter values to boost query performance.
Hey, thanks, Peter. I'm so excited to be here today at the Past Data Community Summit to talk about SQL Server 2022 and what we're doing to help customers get faster with no code changes. You heard us talk in the past about, Connor? Connor, I'm doing a demo. What are you doing here?
Hey, Bob, I'm in Texas. I can't come be with you, but make sure that you're going to tell them about all the cool stuff we've been working on, right?
Yeah, right. Yeah. So what I'm thinking is,
and you know how this is about all the stuff that we've been doing since 2016, where we had the compat level and the query store. Yeah, remember that?
Yeah, I do. But Connor, what I'm thinking what I'm gonna
to keep it so you don't have performance regressions. Tell them that part too.
Oh, okay. So yeah, I'll make sure I get that. Yeah, Connor, thanks for joining. I don't know why you're joining, but yes. So I'm going to try to make sure I tell customers to make sure that we get faster with no code changes, and that we've been working on this for a while. And yeah,
remember how last year we did the whole query stats and query store as well?
Oh, that's right. But where are you?
I'm in Texas. I can't be there. I'm sorry. I gotta go. I'll talk to you later.
Okay, Connor. But that was Connor, Peter. Thanks, Connor, for helping me remind the audience what an amazing story we've been doing over the last releases for SQL Server to get you faster with no code changes. But let me show you a demonstration of one of those examples in SQL Server 2022 that we're doing to make you faster with no code changes. It's called parameter-sensitive plan optimization. I've restored a database with property listings, and I've deployed SQL Server 2022. And what I'd like to do is go take a look at a stored procedure that I got in my database that's used to look up agent listings, and take a look at what it looks like to have an ideal plan, in this particular case with a parameter that is best served by an index seek. And then on the right, after evicting plan cache, what would a plan look like for a stored procedure that was best served by an index scan? Now I'd like to run a workload that looks at performance, so I'm going to use perfmon to look at processor time and batch requests per second to evaluate the throughput of a workload using these procedures. Let's take a now look at the workload I'm going to run. At the top, I'm going to use the popular OSTRES tool to run that stored procedure that is best served by an index seek with multiple users. At the bottom, I'll run a workload that's going to evict plan cache and then run that stored procedure that is best served by an index scan for its plan. Okay, let's see the workload in action. I'll run the workload for the index seek and look at its performance. You can see here in perfmon that I've got a very good throughput and pretty reasonable CPU utilization. In fact, if you go back, you can tell the workload finished in only a few seconds. So now I'll go run the other workload, which is going to evict plan cache and then run a stored procedure with a parameter that's going to require index scan. And it's the best plan for this workload and this stored procedure parameter. Well, this will only finish in about a few seconds. So what I'd like to do is go back and run the first workload again and observe its performance. You can see very quickly a high amount of CPU utilization and a much lower throughput for our workload indicated by the low batch request per second. This is because this procedure is using the same cache plan of the index scan when really an index seek is best for it. In fact, it's so poor that I'll have to go cancel the query at this point to figure out what to go do next.
Okay, now that you've seen what the problem looks like before and what you experienced today, which is a very big pain point for a lot of customers, let me show you how SQL Server 2022 can solve this problem with a DB compat change and no code changes. We call this parameter sensitive plan optimization.
So now in SQL Server 2022, I can solve this problem with no code changes. I can set my DB compat level to 160, rerun the workload to solve the problem. Let's go with the new DB compat level and see if we've solved the problem. Run the stored procedure with a stored procedure parameter that's going to result in index seek completes in a few seconds. Run the second workload, evicting plan cache, running a stored procedure with a parameter that results now in index scan. When that finishes, let's go back to that first workload and see if we've got a performance degradation. You can see here in perfmon, we get comparable performance, comparable throughput. We can even go back and see that the duration of the query that we've run is very similar to the first one. Now we do not experience a performance degradation problem. To prove we have two plans in cache for the same stored procedure, let's go to the query store. Using query store reports, I can see now these are the two plans for the same stored procedure. The first one for an index seek is using that statement in the stored procedure, and you can see for what I've highlighted something called a query variant, which gives us the ability to have these two different plans for the same procedure. This one's for the index seek. Then I also have one for the index scan. Different plan, same stored procedure, in this case what we call a different query variant, proving two plans in cache for the same stored procedure.
Well, there you have it, Peter. Parameter sensitive plan optimization is just one of the great capabilities we've included now in SQL Server 2022 as part of the next generation of intelligent query processing, designed to help you get faster and have consistent performance with no code changes.
Thanks, Bob. And great to see you, Connor. I'm excited to hear what people say when they start using PSP and other new intelligent query capabilities we've built into SQL Server 2022. And this is just a drop in the bucket when it comes to things we're doing to help developers bridge what they've already built with what they're actively building, while making it all run faster and more efficiently. Now I want to talk about something that is important to all of us, availability. We heard from all of you how frustrating it is to get interrupted by unexpected downtime or have to wait for failover servers to come up, especially when most of what you do is business critical. That's why we've created the new link feature in Azure SQL Managed Instance to help you ensure business continuity through a fully managed cloud service. With this capability, a distributed availability group, or DAG, replicates data to an Azure SQL Managed Instance as a passive DR replica site. That way, you can fail over to the Azure instance and even fail back to SQL Server 2022. So now you have the ability to connect to an existing AG setup or an instance that does not have AG configured. Azure SQL Managed Instance is just one member of the Azure SQL family. Azure offers the widest range of deployment options for SQL, from edge to cloud through the Azure SQL family. We call it a family because it's a group of fully managed, secure, and intelligent SQL database services that have a lot in common. With Azure SQL, you can rehost SQL workloads on SQL Server on Azure virtual machines, modernize existing applications with Azure SQL Managed Instance, and support modern cloud applications with with Azure SQL Database and Azure SQL Edge. Azure SQL is built on the same SQL Server engine, so you can migrate applications with ease and continue to use the tools, languages, and resources you're familiar with. Your skills and experience transfer to the cloud and edge, so you can do even more with what you already have. Say you need to stream and analyze IoT device data. Use Azure SQL Edge. When you need to keep your machine data on premises, run SQL Server. To build cloud-native applications, there's Azure SQL Database. What about those legacy apps you plan to retire soon, but not soon enough? You can move them to SQL Server on Azure virtual machines. Azure SQL Managed Instance combines the best of on-premises SQL Server with all the benefits of a fully managed service. And with Azure Arc enabled data services, it doesn't matter what's running under the hood. You can bring it into your estate with ease. As you can see, we're building services that enable developers to build once and deploy anywhere by making SQL available across services. This is huge. No other cloud provider comes close to enabling this flexibility between environments. And we're making it even better. Today, I'm excited to announce the EBv5 Azure VMs, a new memory-optimized VM series, in preview. This series delivers up to a 300% increase in remote storage performance compared to the EV5 VMs. The new VMs offer as much as 120,000 IOPS and 4,000 megabytes a second of remote disk storage throughput. This increase is ideal for data-intensive workloads like SQL Server and can handle high-performance OLTP scenarios and data analytics applications. As a result, you can consolidate existing workloads on fewer VMs or on smaller VM sizes while achieving potential cost savings. For those of you that want to migrate to the PaaS environment offered by Azure SQL Managed Instance, we have some exciting announcements as well. The first is related to the link feature I mentioned earlier. It's not just for failover and high availability use cases. When you're ready to start working in the cloud, you can use it to migrate your on-premise deployments to Azure SQL Managed Instance. It's a great way to start along the bridge. How this works is that you can use an Azure SQL Managed Instance as a replica for a SQL Server 2022 always-on availability group. Not just to provide disaster recovery, but as a readable secondary for cloud reporting or to enable easy migration to Azure SQL MI. We've added a new premium series hardware option with a processor on the latest third generation Intel Xeon scalable processor, codenamed Ice Lake, that more than doubles the memory per vCore available in the standard series Gen 5 offering. The premium series is a great choice for workloads that require faster compute and memory performance, as well as improved I/O and network experience. We've also increased available storage up to 16 terabytes. For general purpose tier, this means doubling what you've got now, and for business critical tier, it means quadrupling it. The increase for business critical is in public preview, and for general purpose, it's in general availability. The last announcement I want to make is the limited public preview of our new Windows authentication capability, which makes it possible to authenticate legacy apps through the cloud without changing the app itself. These new features are just the tip of the iceberg when it comes to the work our engineers are doing to build out Azure SQL Managed Instance. But seeing is believing. So now I'm going to give Anna Hoffman the control panel, and she's going to show us how you can use Azure SQL Managed Instance as a disaster recovery environment, a readable secondary for cloud reporting, or as an option for cloud migration.
Thanks, Peter. I want to show you all how we're bringing the power of Azure SQL to anywhere you are. With SQL Server 2022, you can now create a link to Azure SQL Managed Instance for disaster recovery. Let's take a look at an example from our sample, Wide World Importers. With the rise of e-commerce, they're starting a new venture which involves email campaigns to subscribing customers. In SQL Server Management Studio, or SSMS, I have connected to WWI Server 02, and we can see the Wide World Importers database. We can run a few queries to see the server name, and they already have 5 subscribers that have opted in. This database also contains important information like customer orders and inventory. Due to recent hardware expirations, Wide World Importers is looking for a new disaster recovery, or DR for short, solution. While they could purchase more hardware, they'll then be responsible for the hardware itself and setting up an availability group and a distributed availability group. On top of all this, they'll need to do extensive testing and monitoring to make sure it's meeting their availability and disaster recovery needs. With Azure SQL Managed Instance and the next version of SQL Server, we're building a seamless experience so you can quickly connect and have a managed disaster recovery site in the cloud. With a few clicks, I was able to attach the Wide World Importers database to the cloud. We can see the availability group and distributed availability group that was deployed and configured for me. I didn't have to do anything. Now that we're linked to Azure SQL Managed Instance, we can view it in the Azure portal. With SQL Managed Instance, I can take advantage of things like the new Business Critical Premium Series, which is memory optimized hardware and can scale up to 16 terabytes. This is just one of the benefits that comes with the power of Platform as a Service. Back in SSMS, I can connect to the linked managed instance. We can start to run queries against it as a read-only endpoint, meaning I can offload read-only workloads to the managed instance. In the results, we see that we are connected to managed instance, it's a read-only database, and the same data that we saw in SQL Server is here. We can go back to the SQL Server and insert a new subscriber, Isabella Rupp, and of course we'll see those results in SQL Server, but we'll also see the results reflected in managed instance. So this is a very easy and effective way to get a managed DR solution. Now, let's say there is an outage or a hardware upgrade and you need to failover. With this new link feature, you can easily initiate a failover. This simple wizard guides me through all the steps involved. First, I have to sign into Azure and then connect to the managed instance that I want to failover to. Now, once I'm connected, I then have the expected options of doing a planned or forced failover with some information on how to proceed. Within a few moments, the failover is kicked off and we can monitor the steps that are being performed. Once it's complete, we can go back to SSMS and connect to that Azure SQL Managed Instance and add a new subscriber, Mandy Smith. So we can now use Managed Instance for read and write workloads. This sounds great. Let's consider some scenarios where you want to go back to SQL Server. Maybe the outage is over, or maybe you have some users that can't access the database in Azure for compliance reasons. What if we could restore a SQL Managed Instance database back to SQL Server? With SQL Server 2022, you can. I'm excited to show that this is possible. Here, you can see how I back up the Wide World Importer's Managed Instance database to an Azure Blob storage account using backup to URL. Now, if I switch back over to the SQL Server, I can use good old T-SQL to restore that backup file to SQL Server. Notice here I'm giving it a new name, Wide World Importers Back, so we don't get confused. When I refresh the databases, we can see it. We can connect to Wide World Importers Back and query the subscribers to confirm our latest entry in Azure SQL Managed Instance, Mandy Smith, is there. You've now seen how you can use Azure SQL Managed Instance for disaster recovery and how you can restore Azure SQL Managed Instance databases back to SQL Server. This is just one of many examples of how we're bringing the power of Azure to anywhere you are. Thanks, and back to you, Peter.
Amazing, Anna. I love it. This feels like a critical piece for our data platform that really strengthens the idea of using SQL as a bridge between on-premises and cloud. Additionally, Azure offers unique hybrid and multi-cloud capabilities that give you the flexibility to innovate anywhere in your environment, and it starts with Azure Arc. Azure Arc enables you to standardize visibility, operations, and compliance across a wide range of resources and locations by extending the power of Azure Resource Manager to any environment. Using Azure Arc, you can bring Azure services to any existing infrastructure, including other clouds, and take advantage of cloud benefits like scalability, fast deployment, always up-to-date cloud innovation. You can build Azure consistent new cloud infrastructure in your own data center with Azure Stack and Azure Kubernetes Service on Azure Stack HCI. You can also extend AI to edge devices with Azure IoT. There's a lot of goodness to unpack here, but in the interest of time, I want to focus on what it really means to bring data services from Azure to on-premises. With Azure Arc-enabled data services, you can run Azure data services on-premises, at the edge, and in multi-cloud environments on the infrastructure of your choice. This is ideal for data that needs to stay outside of the public cloud for whatever reason. Regulation, compliance, latency, sovereignty, you all know the drill. Azure Arc-enabled data services deliver the latest innovations from Azure, including built-in high availability, elastic scaling without downtime, and unified management across all your data workloads. Best of all, it works with or without a direct Azure connection. Azure Arc-enabled data services also offers evergreen SQL, meaning you get the latest features, including security updates, automatically. Imagine never having to face end of support again. Azure Arc-enabled data services are generally available for Azure SQL, and Arc-enabled Postgres Hyperscale is currently available in preview. We've heard from a lot of you out there about how much you like using Azure Arc to unify your data estate, but you need a little more flexibility at how much data you send to Azure. when you send the data, and how your users interact with the Azure Arc data controller. We hear you. That's why I'm excited to share general availability of the directly connected mode for Arc-enabled data services. In directly connected mode, Azure Arc Data Controller sends operational data such as metrics and logs, billing and inventory data, and diagnostics data automatically to Azure, which allows you to use Azure Portal and tools like Azure Monitor to see how the data services are performing in their own environment. With directly connected mode, you can use services like Azure Resource Manager APIs, the Azure CLI, and the Azure Portal to manage on-premise resources. It supports the use of Azure Active Directory and Azure Role-Based Access Control to create a consistent identity and access experience. And you can connect Azure Defender Security Services, Container Insights, and Azure Backup to blob storage. Plus, it allows you to perform at-scale monitoring of multiple Azure Arc locations with Azure Monitor. Working through the directly connected mode is like other Azure services when it comes to provisioning, deprovisioning, scaling, configuring resources in the Azure portal. Unlike working in Azure, though, it does not require you to send any sensitive data that's stored on-premises into the cloud. To give you an idea of how powerful Arc-enabled services and the directly connected mode are, I'd like to bring DJ Mahajan for our demonstration.
Thank you, Peter. Let's find out how Tailwind's manufacturing sites use Azure Arc-enabled data services in the newly launched direct connected mode. Tailwind has started to modernize their applications using container, microservices, and data services in container platforms and adopt DevOps practices and tools that help Tailwind deploy their applications and databases at multiple factory locations and different clouds. We'll now see how Tailwind IT teams and database administrators are using Arc-enabled data services in a directly connected mode to manage their on-premises SQL managed instances, Postgres instances from the Azure portal centrally, and also use Azure tooling and services for their applications and infrastructure management. This direct connected mode is good for edge sites like Tailwind has, corporate data centers with good connectivity to Azure, or data services that are running in third-party clouds. Now let's jump into the Tailwind portal and see how Tailwind teams manage their factory locations and the resources, cloud resources that database and infrastructure teams have to manage for their developers. Here's a resource group. In this resource group, Tailwind IT operators can see their AKS Kubernetes clusters running on Azure Stack HCI in the portal, which provides compute and storage capacity to run their databases and data services locally in their manufacturing sites. Database administrators can view their databases, whether they're Postgres instances or SQL managed instances, because Azure Arc creates this cluster that is on the manufacturing side as a connected cluster. Let's dig deeper to see how Tailwinds is manufacturing their data footprint. Tailwinds is using Azure Arc-enabled data services in direct connected mode by deploying Azure Arc on the local Kubernetes cluster in the manufacturing site. The IT administrator has already set up a cluster that is connected to Azure. It then shows up as this custom location here in the Azure portal. The IT administrator then deploys the proper extensions for bootstrapping on that cluster. Tailwind's data services controller is deployed on that factory location on that Kubernetes cluster. The controller is a local process that is responsible for the lifecycle of the SQL managed instances. The controller can be deployed in both indirectly connected mode, but in this case it is used in directly connected mode. If the Azure Arc enabled data services are in directly connected mode, then users can use Azure Resource Manager APIs, the Azure CLI, and the Azure portal, as well as Azure Data Studio to operate the Azure Arc enabled data services. The experience in directly connected mode is much like how you would use any other Azure service with provisioning, deprovisioning, scaling, configuring, and so on from the Azure portal, but on Tailwind's clouds that reside outside of Azure. The controller here is connected to Azure. It pulls down management, operations, policies, identity, and sends up metrics, logs, and billing information to Azure. Thus, database administrators can do updates, creations, deletes of their SQL managed instances and Postgres instances, and also monitor their databases centrally. Tailwind DBAs are now able to meet their data sovereignty, data compliance restrictions, as well as have a tight performance SLAs for latency. Tailwind DBAs have set up the data controller to upload metrics and usage for billing purposes, for monitoring metrics and logs to monitor those centrally, while being able to connect through Grafana and Kibana locally on the on-premises cluster. Using Azure Security Center, Tailwind's infrastructure teams and database teams can get insights into their security of their databases and infrastructure events that are happening. And cloud-based billing is available to view centrally across all clouds and locations. Even better, Tailwinds can use Azure Hybrid Benefits to apply their existing enterprise licenses towards their preferred cloud billing model, pay-as-you-go, 1 year and 3-year reserved instances. This is how Tailwinds has truly transformed digitally their factories to be data-driven using Azure Arc and Azure Arc-enabled data services. Back to you, Pete.
Thanks, DJ. I'll admit, I'm a little stunned to see how easy it was for you to deploy Kubernetes clusters on premises. Nice work. It's amazing how this enables you to deploy to so many different environments in a consistent way. And it's exciting to see how seemingly minor advancements like this can create such huge shifts in how your business allocates time and resources. When you don't need to manually deploy database services to scale or rebuild apps to access analytics, it enables serious opportunities for innovation. On that note, I'd like to share a video with you about how global manufacturer SKF uses hybrid technologies like Azure Arc-enabled data services and Azure SQL Edge to deliver upon their factories of the future concept and to support critical production systems. Let's watch.
SKF is a Swedish bearing and seal manufacturing company. Together with our network of 17,000 distributors, we cover some 130 countries globally today.
Our challenge is that we have more than 100 factories, and we need to be able to provide them with an IT/OT platform that comes with speed, reliability, and low cost, while providing support for critical production systems. The decisive factor in selecting a hybrid cloud solution was to have a solution that supports more data-driven manufacturing. This shift means that we can look to employ cloud-native operating models where we execute workloads on premises at our factories. Azure Arc enabled data services together with other Azure hybrid services, Azure Edge services such as Azure SQL Edge, are imperative components. It becomes fundamental to have highly available, scalable, and centrally managed data platforms. SQL is the very heart of the operations performance management in the factories of the future. Using Azure hybrid services together with automation tools like Terraform and other Azure management tools allow us to achieve the speed that we're looking for.
We have benefits at every single level of the organization. If we look at the shop floor, the collection of all this data will help us to improve the process and the product performance. At the management level, we will be able to have, let's say, real-time analysis to try to define the strategy and the footprint for the future.
When it comes to the Azure stack, what we see is actually up to 40% hard savings when it comes to the hardware compared to what we have been investing before. We actually are able to monitor the applications running inside the factory. This is something what will help us and gives us a lot of efficiency and cost savings as well. We also estimate that we will have up to 30% savings or reduction of OT-related downtimes of the machinery. Visualizations or reports are helping actually the operators to more quickly react on deviations on the shop floor. We want to come to the point that we are really proactive so that the operators can act before the actual deviation is happening. Preventive maintenance going towards predictive maintenance.
The ultimate goal is to have signals from bearings at our customer sites connecting directly with our manufacturing units, so the production or remanufacturing can start just in time.
We are striving for world-class manufacturing. Digitalization is one enabler on our journey towards world-class. There's a big benefit what we see to really optimize the entire value chain.
Wow, that was great to see. Up to now, we've been talking a lot about ways to bring your relational data forward. But if we're going to embrace the changes of our modern world, we need to be able to harness unstructured data just as effectively. Given our universe theme, it seems only fitting that we should turn our gaze into the cosmos, or more precisely, Azure Cosmos DB. Azure Cosmos DB is our fast, NoSQL database designed for developing modern, cost-effective applications at any size or scale. With Azure Cosmos DB, you get guaranteed single-digit millisecond response times, 99.999% availability, and automatic and instant scalability. Fast writes and reads are possible anywhere in the world. Who knows, maybe even outside it, with turnkey data replication and multi-region writes. Recently, we've added some superstar features that I'm excited to tell you about. For example, in direct response to our most highly requested feature, you can now do partial updates that enable path-level updates to specific fields or properties. And we're making it easier to manage and control database costs by offering custom spending limits for provision throughput, as well as cost savings alerts in Azure Advisor. These capabilities are generally available. And in preview today, we're offering custom partitioning for Azure Synapse Link, which improves query performance for analytical workloads in Cosmos DB. As you can see, the team's doing amazing work with Cosmos DB to increase your control and power over NoSQL data. To that point, we've got a really exciting announcement. We're expanding our NoSQL database offerings with Azure Managed Instance for Apache Cassandra. This service enables developers to create hybrid deployments with transparent migration, replication, and synchronization of Cassandra data across on-premises and Azure. Now, as some of you might remember, in 2020, we announced Azure Synapse Link for Cosmos DB to help break down the barrier between operational data and analytical systems. Last year, around this time, we rolled out Azure Synapse Link for Cosmos DB, and it was a big hit. This year, we're expanding Azure Synapse Link so you can use it for more than just Cosmos DB. Now you can use Azure Synapse Link for SQL Server 2022. That's right, for your on-premises deployments. With Azure Synapse Link for SQL Server 2022, we're removing the need to build and manage complex ETL pipelines. Now you can pull your operational data into Synapse quickly to run scalable analytics in the cloud and visualize insights through Power BI. We've integrated this capability with Azure Purview, which Mike is going to talk us through in a few minutes. But essentially, the integration makes it easy to maintain the control and governance you need for on-premises assets, even as you use cloud-based analytics. We've also created a new change feed capability to reduce impact on OLTP workloads and made the latency between SQL Server and Synapse Analytics near real time. I know some of you are out there thinking, is this the same as change data capture, CDC, or transaction replication? Good news, it's absolutely not. Synapse Link publishes changes directly to Synapse, so you can combine it with many different data sources regardless of their size, scale, or format, and run powerful analytics over all your data in near real time. We're really excited to extend Azure Synapse Link to your different data sources. It will be available with SQL Server 2022 in the coming months. Right now, you can use it with Cosmos DB for distributed NoSQL data, and Dataverse, which is a secure data store that underlies Power Platform applications and workloads. Sama Zaki has volunteered to demonstrate how Azure Synapse Link for Dataverse works. Sama, thanks for joining today.
Thank you, Peter. Hello, everyone. My name is Sama, and I'm a PM with Dataverse. For those of you who are new, Dataverse is the underlying data platform for all Dynamics 365 applications and the Power Platform. Our goal is to easily structure your business data across applications in a secure and compliant manner. When working with data, a blank page can be really scary. And that's why at Dataverse, we have made an intuitive data structure using tables and columns, and this empowers all our users to easily give meaning to their business data and simplify using their data elsewhere. With that intro to Dataverse, I want to share that Azure Synapse Link for Dataverse is officially generally available. With just a few clicks, you are able to create a continuous pipeline from your Dataverse data to Azure Synapse Analytics and rapidly start analyzing and visualizing your data. And if you make any data content or data structure changes in Dataverse, we'll take care of reflecting those changes in Synapse for you, allowing you to focus on gaining meaningful insights from your data. To use Azure Synapse Link for Dataverse, first navigate to the Power Platform Maker portal. Under the Dataverse tab, you'll find the Azure Synapse Link screen. Here you can create a new link. Make sure to connect to your Azure Synapse Analytics workspace, then specify your subscription, specify your resource group, select a workspace, and select the corresponding storage account, then hit Next. Here you can select the tables that you want to add to your pipeline. For us, we'll be selecting Account, and then you can hit Save. Once your link has been successfully created, select it from the main page, ensure that the sync status is active, and then select Go to your Azure Synapse Analytics workspace.
Once I'm here, I can expand my databases, and then I expand my Dataverse database that contains my Dataverse tables, and under Tables, I see that I have my account table. I can then take an action on this account table.
The first action we will take is to select the top 100 rows from the table using the built-in serverless SQL pool that comes with every Synapse workspace.
And so now here I can see that this is the top 100 rows in my data. I can even go to the chart functionality.
And here I have a multitude of chart options that I can choose from to create a quick visualization. The next action we will take on our Dataverse data is to load the data into an Apache Spark data frame. The default notebook starts with a code cell that selects the top 10 rows from the Dataverse account table. Optionally, you can write new code using a variety of languages. For instance, here is a sample Spark notebook I created that reads in on-premises data from Outlook and joins it with my Dataverse account data. It then writes this joined data set into a Spark database that is available in my Synapse workspace. Next, I will bring my Dataverse data from the Synapse workspace into Power BI. In Power BI Desktop, select Get Data and More. From the connector list, select Azure, then select the Azure Synapse Analytics SQL Data Warehouse connector, then select Connect. To find your server name, launch Azure and open your Azure Synapse Analytics Workspace Details tab.
The first thing I want to do is I want to copy the serverless SQL endpoint so I can connect to it using the Azure Synapse Analytics connector in Power BI. Then I'll navigate back to Power BI Desktop and paste the serverless SQL endpoint under the server option, and then select Direct Query for my data connectivity mode. Then I'll hit OK. It may ask you to authenticate at this step. If not, it'll take you straight to the Navigator pane. In this pane, you'll be able to see all the tables from your Synapse workspace. Under the Dataverse database, I'll be able to see the account table that I exported from Dataverse. Under the default database, I'll be able to see any newly created tables, such as the table we created in Spark. For this demo, I will select the account Dataverse table, and I'll load it into Power BI. Once the data is loaded into Power BI, I can quickly and easily create visualizations that allow me to report on the Dataverse data in Synapse. And that is how you can use Azure Synapse Link for Dataverse to accelerate time to insight. Thank you for your time today, and we hope you all will enjoy this new functionality.
Thank you, Sama. That was fabulous. And thank you all for allowing me to be your guide on this exploration of the limitless database services available through Microsoft. Back to you, Rohan.
Thanks, Peter. That was a great in-depth look at SQL Server 2022 and the latest innovations in Azure databases. As we all know, database services provide the critical foundation you need to start building modern data experiences on demand and at scale. However, when it comes to actually understanding the data and using it to make your businesses smarter and more responsive, you need a way to bridge data into insights. Which begs the question, how do you match insights to pace the business of today? Because let's face it, questions from your business groups never stop coming. Where are we with actual performance versus goals? How can I increase the factory machine uptime? What do we do to outperform the new disruptor? The list goes on and on. To find the answers, you need up-to-the-minute business intelligence, predictive analytics, and AI and machine learning to help you see patterns in your data that were once invisible. We've made major advancements in all these areas this year. And to tell you about them, I'd like to introduce Arun Ulag, Corporate Vice President of the Intelligence Platform at Microsoft.
Thank you so much, Rohan. I'm absolutely delighted to be here. I want to talk to you about how you take all of this data at your disposal and transform that to intelligence. Our goal as the Intelligence Platform is to help you drive a data culture where every employee can make better decisions with data. Also enable you to create a new class of applications that start from data and help you drive intelligent action. So I'm going to talk about 3 product areas: data integration, analytics, and business intelligence with Azure Data Factory, Azure Synapse Analytics, and Power BI. There are 3 major areas of investment. The first is how we empower every individual. And for that, I'm going to just talk to you about how we are taking all of the AI capabilities that we have at Microsoft's disposal and bringing that to every information worker, every business analyst, and every data scientist. One of the most exciting new capabilities that we launched just a few months ago in public preview is automatic report insights in Power BI. So think about this as having a data scientist by your shoulder, just looking at the data you're looking at and pointing out things that you should be paying attention to, not just in terms of what's going on, but also why this is happening. The second area I wanted to call out is how we're taking all of the intelligence and bringing it to your physical environment. Power BI Mobile is incredibly popular on both iOS and Android and very, very widely used, but we're taking it even further. This new project we're working on is called Data in Space. And here's you can see how we're bringing Power BI reports into your physical world. So this is the Seattle Vaccination Center where I actually got my vaccine shots. And you'll notice that there are Power BI dashboards that are pinned into your physical environment that show things like the current queue wait time, that show the number of people that have been vaccinated, even the vial wastage rate. This data, we're trying to bring it into your physical environment. So we talked about every individual. Now let's talk about how we empower every single team. And business intelligence, data, and analytics is a team sport. So we're really bringing all of the power of analytics and intelligence directly into teams. So with Teams, today you now have a Power BI app that's just built for teams that brings all of your experiences into your collaborative environment. If you haven't checked it out, then please do that today. It's very, very easy to use. The second area I want to talk about is Excel. Excel is the world's most popular tool for working with data, and everybody loves Excel. The good news is that with Excel today, Power BI is just built in. So you see the Power BI datasets show up in Excel on the right-hand side, and you can build a pivot table, all your row-level security, all your object-level security, even your Microsoft information protection labels just apply to your Power BI datasets in Excel. The third area we wanted to talk about is really how you can drive performance management with Power BI. With goals, you can tell us what you're trying to achieve, and Power BI will automatically stay on track of where you stand. This capability is in public preview today. The great thing about goals is it's driven by data. When you show up, the data is always refreshed. It's built for teams. It uses all of our AI capabilities, and it drives automated action. The last area I want to talk about from an investment perspective is how we empower every organization. And here, we're really trying to help you get a complete analytics fabric end to end. And we're doing that by bringing all of the capabilities of Power BI together with all of the capabilities of Synapse. So let's just spend a quick minute on Synapse. Synapse provides some incredible capabilities for you to be able to bring your data together into your data lake, work with it with Spark, build data warehouses, work with observational data, and empower your data scientists. What we're doing is really making sure that Power BI and Synapse work together end to end to provide you with a complete analytics fabric. I'm going to talk to you about 2 announcements today. The first is we're announcing public preview of hybrid tables and automatic aggregations. This allows you to work with Power BI and Synapse in a way in which they're continuously optimizing themselves, and they're working together to show you insights on data that is happening right now. So Patrick LeBon, can you come over and show us a quick demo?
Take a look at this. This is the New York taxi data set. And let me just refresh the visuals on this page. I'm just going to do a quick refresh. This is over 3 billion rows in Azure Synapse, and it's pure direct query mode. If you think about the volume of data coming back, and more importantly, the complexity of the queries required for this report, the query performance is actually quite reasonable. It's pretty fast. It's pretty fast if we think about how much data we have in our data set, in our data warehouse. But we know that business users in Power BI expect snappy, instant responses. They don't want to wait, right? They don't want to wait, because if they have to wait, they go off and get a coffee, and then they come back and it's still spinning. They're just going to close it, and they're not going to use it. So there's definitely room for improvement. There's definitely room for improvement. As you can see, one of the visuals took over 30 seconds to refresh. 30 seconds. This is in milliseconds, all right? But it took 30 seconds. And if you interact with this visual on the report, further queries are generated and the experience is a little sluggish. So what can we do? How can we fix this? How do we solve this problem? we can come into the dataset settings and we can enable automatic aggregations. I'm so excited about this feature. The first time Christian told me about this, I was like, I can't wait to get my hands on it. I was like, open the door, Christian. I need to get my hands on this, okay? We can also set up a refresh schedule that will not only refresh the aggregations, but it will also redefine them if required, based on unforeseen query usage patterns. This is what makes automatic aggregations a self-learning, self-optimizing system. Okay, I'm going to say it again. This is what makes automatic aggregations a self-learning and self-optimizing system. Here's an instance of the same reports that's pointing at the data set that's already been set up with automatic aggregations. As you can see, the query performance is much improved at just over 1 second. Right? We went from 30 seconds to 1 second. We get nice interactivity, and if I happen to perform an action that generates a query that does not have an aggregation prepared, the system will revert back to the direct query on the fly. You don't have to do anything. It'll handle it for you. And it'll keep track of that query. So hopefully the next time a user performs that interaction, there will be an aggregation prepared. So the user experience is dramatically improved. But as the dataset owner, I want visibility of how much I'm improving the needle across the entire business, not just for one report, all reports. So I'm going to come back into the dataset setting for the one that's already set up. And I get this beautiful lift chart. In pure direct query mode, I'm at the 60th percentile in terms of meeting my 5-second query response time SLA, right? With automatic aggregations enabled, I'm at the 80th percentile. I can dynamically adjust the number of historical queries that hit aggregations to, for example, 85%, and that will get me to the 88th percentile. And I can trade that off versus the number of aggregations that need to be refreshed. So I get good visibility and I can understand the benefit of the feature. Now, there are some cases where you do want to cache all the data in memory. When you want blazing fast performance from top to bottom, irrespective of aggregation level, irrespective of the random ad hoc analysis, for that we have the large models feature, which is generally available. But of course, if data changes in the data warehouse, you need to refresh the data set, and that can add latency and management overhead. So we are redefining this with a new feature called hybrid tables, which will give you the best of both worlds. Blazing fast performance and real-time analysis. So you guys thought I was just going to talk about automatic ags. We can cache massive amounts of historical data in the same table with the same business definitions, allowing you to add a direct query partition for the most recent data so you can see data changes without having to refresh the data set. Let's demonstrate this. This is a New York taxi data set. Here we have the trip count measure, which simply gives us the count of the rows in the trip table. Nothing out of the ordinary so far. Let's casually drag it onto the canvas to see how many rows we have in here. Lo and behold, we have over 3 billion rows and we got instant response times. It's like slicing and dicing through butter. Just like through butter. Let's break out the revenue per trip by the top 10 zip codes. Let's visualize this on a map. We can find out that the pickup locations with the highest revenue per trip is JFK. And we can zoom into the individual pickup locations, some of which happen to be on the freeway. So let me summarize here. We've gone from 3 billion row aggregate sale value all the way down to individual pickup locations representing a single row in the table. And we got blazing fast performance from top to bottom. But naturally, if the data changes in the data warehouse, we need to refresh the data set, right? Do we? Do we really need to refresh it? Let's find out. Let me filter this just by the last 2 minutes in JFK and refresh the page every second. What? Oh my. We can actually see the data changing in real time. More people are starting to travel after COVID. Some people are getting back into their old habits, hailing down taxis on the freeway. This is just amazing. How on earth is this physically possible? This is possible because of the hybrid tables feature. This visual shows the partition for the trip table. They're automatically generated by the incremental refresh feature. You guys use incremental refresh? You guys know I love incremental refresh. And if you zoom in here, you can see the direct query partition is being updated in real time as the taxi rides happen out at JFK. Absolutely, absolutely amazing.
Thank you so much, Patrick. The second announcement I have is about what we're doing for observational data. Observational data is really the fastest growing segment of data because it is the data about the world around you. It is data from your IoT devices. It is data about human interactions that is machine recorded. It's data about the applications you build and the performance that those applications have. And this data is traditionally really hard to analyze, which is why we built Synapse Data Explorer. It provides a new analytics storage engine that is optimized for time series data from logs or telemetry analytics. It provides native support for free text, structured, semi-structured. It works with very low latency and has a human-friendly query language. I'm delighted to announce that the public preview of Synapse Data Explorer is now available for you to try. One of the customers that's taking advantage of all of our capabilities is Marks & Spencer, one of the leading retailers in Europe. Let's roll a video and see how Marks & Spencer's is using our capabilities.
Hello, my name is James Ferguson. I'm Aaron Dander and I work for M&S. At M&S, we do a lot of our own product development, and that brings lots of challenges, such as availability, what stock levels we have in store, what's on the road, and what's in the distribution centre. M&S has its own data centre, but some of our systems are quite old because we've been around for a long time. The technologies and the ways they were built weren't really thinking about today's technology world. Obviously that hits a lot of challenges when you get to high volumes of data, and it's becoming impossible to work in that way. We've innovated over time to stay competitive. We're getting information to our buyers, the merchandisers, store managers, and the marketing teams. We had to have a solution that gives us all our data in a single place where it's available to multiple different users in tools that suit them.
Azure Synapse is a great data warehouse platform. It allows us to load and structure our data in a way that's really performant for reporting and queries.
We push data into Azure Data Lake.
We surrounded that with ADF and Databricks to do ETL pipelines. It also gives us the ability to scale the platform up and down depending on workload.
We create labs and Synapse where they can pull together their own data sets and then point tools like Power BI at it.
Azure has enabled us to stand up data science teams and make them very efficient.
We have to make data-led decisions in order to keep being a market leader. We've got to make the most of machine learning and other data science tools. Azure is the only way that we're going to be able to do that.
Great. So you saw how Marks & Spencer's use lots of our capabilities to be able to move their business forward. That's all I have. Back to you, Rohan.
Thank you, Arun, for guiding us through the recent enhancements to analytics and business intelligence. It's exciting to think how far insights and analytics can take your business. However, we all know that insights can only be as good as the data we use to build them. With new data sources coming at you from every direction today, getting your data right requires spending increasing amounts of time cleaning, preparing, and vetting it before you can even use it. We've been hearing from customers and the data community at large that you want an easier way to gain visibility over all your data to ensure data governance is being upheld. And that brings us to the third component of our end-to-end data platform that helps you bridge the work you're doing today with a new universe of possibilities, unified data governance. As a team, we took a good look at what we could do to make data governance a natural part of Azure Data Services. As a result, we've added capabilities to help you automate data discovery, lineage, identification, and data classification. We've enhanced the built-in comprehensive security and data compliance features we already provide. And we've created a way for you to view your data assets and their relationships for more effective data governance. With that said, I'd like to ask Mike Flasco, General Manager, Azure Data Governance Platform, to take us on a quick tour of Azure Purview. Welcome, Mike.
Thanks, Rohan. It's great to be here with you all and to share what we've been up to with Azure Purview. Purview is a unified data governance solution that helps you discover, understand, and govern data assets across your on-premises, multi-cloud, and SaaS-based data estate. The Purview platform delivers foundational data governance capabilities, such as automated data discovery and classification, and an up-to-date map of the data assets and their lineage relationships across your data landscape. Built on the Purview platform are two data governance apps. First is the Data Catalog. This empowers all data consumers to easily find trusted data. Second, Data Estate Insights. This is for CDOs to gain a holistic understanding of their data landscape. Now, as a cloud-native managed service, you can get started discovering and classifying your data assets in a matter of minutes with just a few clicks. Purview eliminates data governance silos by automatically integrating all data asset metadata into a holistic data map that auto-scales as your data estate expands. Further, the data map's an open platform. Exposed using Apache Atlas APIs, it supports an ecosystem of first and third-party data governance applications and tools. Now, instead of describing Purview any further, I'd love for you to just see Purview in action. And to do that, please join me in welcoming Evangeline White.
Thanks, Mike. I'm excited to show everyone what Purview can do, so let's jump right in. Here we are in the home screen of the Purview data catalog. This is where your business analysts, data scientists, and data engineers come to find the data they need to generate business insights. Now, we know organizations are dealing with more data than ever, so Purview is built to catalog at scale. And as you can see, we've already cataloged thousands of data sources and millions of data assets describing petabytes of data. Now I'm going to show you how to register and scan a new source. Here in the Data Sources view, you can see all of the data sources I've already registered organized by location. Purview supports a wide variety of on-prem, cloud, and SaaS sources such as Google Looker, Azure Synapse, SQL Server, Power BI, SAP, Teradata, and more. I'll select Amazon S3 and register. Okay, now let's scan the data in our S3 bucket. This will automatically classify our data and add it to our data map. Here, we can scope our scan by selecting what parts of the S3 bucket we're interested in. I'm going to scan it all. You can also decide which file types you'd like to scan. I want to scan everything, so I'll leave all of these enabled. Next, let's set up automated data classification. Purview provides native support for more than 200 sensitive information types, such as credit card numbers, government IDs, names, location data, and more. You can also define your own custom classification rules if you have them. And finally, we can schedule the scan to run regularly or just once. I'll leave it recurring, so we'll always have an accurate and up-to-date understanding of all of the data in this S3 bucket. Okay, and that's it. In just a few minutes, we begun to scan and automatically classify the data from the source. Okay, while that's being scanned, let's go back to our data catalog. For this part, imagine I'm an analyst trying to find data that can help me determine the impacts of a global marketing campaign across the full customer journey. I'll start by searching for revenue. You can see I get suggestions and recommendations as I type. And now I have hundreds of results ranked by relevance across a range of sources. In this case, since the campaign was global, I'll select worldwide sales, and now the results have been narrowed to only worldwide revenue data. This revenue by customer Synapse table looks interesting, so let's drill into it. Okay, so here I can see associated business terms as well as when this table was last modified. And thanks to the automated data classification we set up earlier, I can also see that there's a lot of personal information in this table. Let's dig a little deeper. Great, here we can see exactly the information this table has. So our column names, the classifications applied to them, as well as the glossary terms stored in these columns. Now, before I start incorporating this data into my analytics, I want to understand where it came from. Here in the lineage view, I can see that this data originates from sources I trust, like our SAP CRM system, as well as location and sales databases I recognize from past projects. I can also see column level lineage. If I select quantity and store ID, I can see how those two data elements are combined from separate sources. Okay, I love this. Now, how many people in the audience today have run into a situation where they've spent all kinds of time developing an amazing dashboard only to share it and find out that one already existed? I've been there. It's the worst. So before I go replicating work, I'm going to look downstream to see existing uses of this data that I might be able to reuse. And sure enough, here's a campaign analytics dashboard someone in my organization has already made, so I don't have to go duplicate that work. Now let's switch to the dashboard asset to get more detail. See, this dashboard is clearly combining web, campaign, and revenue data, and if I want, I can click Open in Power BI to jump right into the dashboard itself. Now, before we wrap up, I want to show you some amazing integrations we've built between Purview and other Azure services. Our deep integration between Purview and Synapse means I can go to a Synapse workspace, search for revenue like I did earlier, learn about that data, and evaluate deep lineage like I'm showing right here. Once I find that data set, I can directly connect to it and begin development work if I'm a data engineer. Our integration with Power BI means you can explore metadata from Power BI sub-artifacts. In this dataset, for example, we can see lineage for columns and calculations. So I have a confession to make. I have a love-hate relationship with SQL stored procedures, or at least I used to. When I was an analyst, this was where a lot of the magic of data analytics happened, so that was great. But later, when I was on a data governance team, I was in this situation where my team and I would go to our business partners and we'd say, look, we've cataloged millions of assets and we have lineage. And the question we'd get in every single meeting was always, well, great, but do you have lineage for SQL stored procedures? And I always had to say no. But now you don't. With SQL One Provenance, you can finally see lineage for those stored procedures. This capability is huge, so we're really excited to offer it. Okay, so that was a quick walkthrough of how Purview helps you discover, understand, use, and govern your data. I hope this has you excited to try it out. Back to you, Mike.
Thanks, Evangeline. It's been amazing to see how unified data governance can maximize the business value of data. In fact, I'd love to share a customer story of how Heathrow Airport has done just that. With millions of passengers coming through its doors and hundreds of thousands of aircraft movements each year, Heathrow is one of the busiest airports in Europe by passenger traffic. The airport has a lot to take into consideration when you need to account for so many real-time variables, like adverse weather delays, aircraft delays, traffic-clogged highways, public transport slowdowns, global pandemics, and even population growth. To help internal teams identify opportunities for improving efficiency, Heathrow knew it needed to automate and streamline data processing, so they turned to Microsoft for help. By combining Azure services such as Azure Purview, Azure Synapse Analytics, with powerful data visualization tools in Microsoft Power BI, Heathrow built a data insights platform that makes it easier for teams to drive operational efficiencies, enhance customer and supplier service, and grow sustainably. The solution unifies data governance across all its data sources. It automates data discovery and classification, and supports advanced data analytics, reporting, and visualizations. Now, this ensures analysts and data scientists have the freedom and support they need to do more with the airport's data. And as Rohan mentioned earlier, SQL Server has been the guiding light for many of us for decades, and it remains the backbone of many businesses today. This is why from the beginning, Azure Purview has supported deep integration with SQL Server, allowing you to automatically discover, classify, and identify the lineage of data assets across all your SQL Server deployments. Further, as part of our Azure-enabled services rolling out with SQL 2022, I'm excited to announce that integration with Azure Purview will be included. Now it's time for me to hand back things to you, Rohan. I'm going to hang out back there with Peter and Arun. We're going to do our best to look like Yoda, Anakin, and Obi-Wan at the end of episode 6.
Thanks, Mike. If you all represent those three characters, does that make me Luke Skywalker? I'm good with that. Today, we've talked about the latest enhancements to the Azure Data Platform in the areas of limitless cloud database services, unmatched analytics and insights, and unified data governance. Together, these components reinforce one another and create a bridge that carries you into a universe of endless possibilities. Thanks to your ongoing feedback, contributions, and participations in previews, we've developed and refined these new features and capabilities to make it easier than ever to modernize your business from on-premises to cloud to the edge. With SQL Server 2022 and Azure Data Services, you get the power and control you need to answer the most challenging business questions, as well as an out-of-this-world community of colleagues to inspire, challenge, and guide you. Before I sign off, I want to recognize the strength and persistence of this community. What started as a shared interest in a database has become something so much more. A few weeks ago, Merritt, a program manager for the Azure Data community, shared a story with me that made me so proud and honored to be associated with all of you. I asked her to share that story with you today to close out our time together. It's all you.
Meet Aaron. Aaron is one of our data platform MVPs. Thanks to my role here at Microsoft and my work in the community, I've known Aaron for about 8 years. Aaron really embodies the spirit of community, from bringing homemade caramels to the speaker room at a conference to answering questions from those seeking help with Query Store. One day, Aaron tweeted about her friend's niece, Mila, who suffers from a high-risk form of cancer. Aaron wanted to find some way to offer support, so she signed up to run 24 miles in 24 hours as a fundraiser in support of Mila and other children with life-threatening illnesses. Her goal was $700 with a stretch goal of $2,000. You know what Aaron forgot, though? She forgot that the Azure data community cares. SQL family cares hardcore. After I made my donation, I kept track of her fundraising page. I watched as she blew past her $2,000 stretch goal on the first day, obliterated her $5,000 goal, and ran full speed at $10,000 without slowing down. By the time all was said and done, Erin raised over $15,000 for Mila, her family, and Make-A-Wish Cleveland, thanks to you, the data community. You brought more than just donations, though. As I kept up with her progress, I saw that so many of you across the world were doing the same as she completed the 24 in 24 challenge for Mila. It didn't matter that none of us had ever met Mila before. We all showed up for Erin. That's the sign of a real community. So I'm with you, Rohan. The force is strong here, and it's because of this amazing community.
Hi, friends. Thank you for your support during the 24 in 24. Thank you to those of you who donated, who said words of encouragement and cheered me on virtually. Without that, I would not have made it through those 24 hours. And I cannot tell you how much I appreciate the donations that will make it possible for these kids, including Mila, to have their wishes come true. This community continues to inspire me. Thank you for showing up.